All right, listen up, y'all.
Greetings, everybody. This is another episode of All Things Education Official. I'm your host and educator, Mr. Abdullah, giving you education from a black male educator's perspective. Today, we're going to talk about paperwork versus people work, the overload of paperwork given to educators.
We're basically asked to write down every single thing we're doing. Most of it is obvious. I'm supposed to put in writing how playing a musical instrument relates to the standard, students will play musical instruments. Then I have to write out every action in this format: plan, do, study, act. This is for the teachers, not the students. Then I have to use a rubric like this to write down things like how I'm going to know that the students are playing their musical instruments. I keep it all in a big notebook like this. And the fun part is, no one's ever actually going to read this stuff.
That was a really good, quick breakdown of the paperwork and how we actually feel about it as educators. We know that a lot of the paperwork we do, it goes unseen. Our superiors just look over the first page to see if we actually submitted it, and it goes into a file. But let's go ahead and read the BA Blueprint. They dropped an article called How Bad is Teacher Paperwork? In this article, it says it is a growing concern that our teachers are drowning in paperwork. Paperwork ranging from lesson plans, attendance reports, reports related to the health and safety of students, and so on and so forth. There are around 40 types of paperwork that teachers can handle. So, as an educator, we know this. As teachers, we know the large amounts of paper that are given, but parents really don't. They sometimes just assume, hey, they take attendance, they have to draw up a lesson plan, and they got to get a lesson. It couldn't be any farther from the truth. If only it were that simple. It's not. What we're forced to do is we have to plan for the year. We have to submit it in the form of professional development plans called PDPs. We have SGOs. These have to be submitted in a timely fashion to our administrators. They have to go over it. They have to go over it with us. They have to sign off. We have to follow it to the letter. The lessons plans are so tedious and time consuming, you'll be amazed. And they have to be submitted weekly, on top of just monitor and adjust, pivoting in class, because sometimes you'll have a really, really good lesson, but it's not resonating with the kids. So guess what that means? We got to switch it up. And if you switch it up, that throws off your entire timeline. That's why you got some teachers that just try to push ahead, trying to get that information out. Then you have to do attendance. That attendance isn't just checking boxes. You have to, sometimes if you're an attendance team, such as I am, you have to follow up with students to find out why they weren't there. If they missed a certain amount of days, you got to report that to the attendance officer. If there are any social issues, let's say there's abuse going on at home and the student makes you aware, you have to stop what you're doing. You have to report that. That requires paperwork. The reason why I'm giving you this information is because I want you to understand that we are human as educators and we got a lot on our plate. The average optimal classroom size is 18. The average classroom size nowadays is 24.4 students, and I have peers at my school that have 28 to 30 students in the classroom. For instance, let's give an example. Let's say a quarter of your students have issues. So if you got 30 students, half that is 15, half that is 7. If you have 7, you have to do everything that I've already listed out and labeled. Not only do you have to do all of that, you have to make phone calls, respond to phone calls and emails and text messaging. Once you start that process of reaching out, you can't just send a call and walk away. That's not how that works. You actually have to follow up, make sure you contact that parent and follow through. Now, there are so many different ways that you can communicate with parents. It's text messaging, it's Class Dojo, it's email. However you do it, you got to get it done. And guess what? Even though we know that the optimal size for a classroom is 18, and a lot of our teachers have 24 to 30, principals don't even want to hear that they didn't have time. So many of us start our day at 7, ending at 5, even though our punch time isn't till 8:05 and our punch out time is 2:55, 3 o'clock. We are only asking that you understand what we go through. The way you can best help your educator of your children is when you reach out and you want to get a response, let them know, hey, this is important. Get back with me within 24 hours. It's not simple enough and just enough to say, I called, because you were not the only call. For that matter, you weren't the only person that called that day, not let alone that week. You're talking 10 to 15 calls per week on average. And for a position such as mine, I'm getting 10 to 15 in a day. I reach out because luckily my position does not have me relegated to the classroom. I'm all over the school, and I have more time than the teachers, but I do feel a sense of empathy for my peers that are in the classroom that have to give this information not only to you, not only to the children, but to the principals, assistant principals, whoever is evaluator of record, sometimes assistant superintendents, and their reports sometimes they need to be submitted to the state because we are all state governed, which eventually means that we are federally governed. I just want you to know we are working our hardest. The people work far outweighs the paperwork, but it's just that a lot of our legislators and our higher ups don't know this. Once again, this is another episode of All Things Education Official. I am your host, Mr. Abdullah. Please hit that like, subscribe, and comment. Share. Let people know what you're getting over here from a black male educator, giving you education from a black male educator's perspective. Once again, you are dismissed.
Yeah! You are all expurgated. You are dismissed.